a todos por unirse a esta llamada. Veo gente desde empezando lo más al norte, a Carlos desde Guadalajara, después bajando un poco más a Cristian desde Honduras. Creo que acá llegamos más a la parte norte de Sudamérica, nos unimos desde Colombia, Gustavo. Perdón no saber el nombre de todos y desde dónde se conectan. Reconozco el nombre de André Neira desde Lima. Creo que se acaba de unir JJ Campuzano desde México. Mejor dicho, David, tenemos audiencia de toda Latinoamérica que está
Bueno,
deseosos. Facundo desde Argentina, lo pude suponer por el nombre. Creo que hay nombres típicos de ciertas nacionalidades, ¿no les parece? Creo que Juan David, por ejemplo, es un nombre muy colombiano, una combinación muy de Colombia. Como Facundo puede ser de Argentina.
Argentina.
Entonces, pues nada, gracias a todos por unirse y a ti, David, por tu tiempo. Es
Gracias
bastante
para
tarde
ti.
en Lisboa, son las 11 de la noche. Entonces, pues les cuento rápidamente cómo va a ser la dinámica. Va a ser media hora de la presentación de David. Él tiene un script, pues la preparó en español porque, pues bueno, no es está en su proceso de aprendizaje de español. Y después abrimos preguntas, un Q&A en inglés. Ustedes pueden preguntar en español, David responderá en inglés. Así que David, adelante si quieres iniciar compartiéndonos pantalla. Bueno, ya nosotros disfrutaremos de la presentación.
Gracias, gracias. Un momento para just to share my screen. Aquí. ¿Ustedes pueden ver? Sí.
Todavía yo no puedo ver si tú estás compartiendo pantalla, déjame reviso. ¿Ustedes pueden ver la pantalla de...?
Sí,
Es que tengo...
sí, en
Sí, la puedo
Bogotá.
ver. Sí, sí, se ve, se ve.
Sí, perfecto, entonces es un problema mío, de mi pantalla. Entonces ya lo... Pero si la pueden ver todos, entonces adelante.
Bueno, ¿estás listo? Sí. Ok, hola. Gracias a todos y gracias a Juan David por invitarme. Yo soy David Mihal y yo soy... hoy quiero hablar sobre las soluciones de escalado para Ethereum. Necesito decir que mi español no es tan bueno. Es mi primera presentación en español, pero estaba muy emocionado por la oportunidad de practicar con un tema que me apasionaba tanto. Yo escribí esta charla con la ayuda de Google y ayudas a algunos amigos, pero para las preguntas es posible que deba cambiar al inglés. Antes de empezar, quiero hablar un poco sobre mí. Yo soy un ingeniero de blockchain y he trabajando con Ethereum durante casi 3 años. Traté de encontrar un buen foto de mi tiempo en Colombia. Es una foto en... ¿qué es el restaurante? Es...
Andrés Carne de Res, así que cuando vengan todos los amigos de Latinoamérica y bueno, del mundo a Bogotá, seguramente tendremos una muy buena fiesta en Andrés Carne de Res. Le
Sí.
preguntaba, sí, porque apenas vi la foto, es muy característica, esa bandera que tiene David, se la ponen a todos los visitantes y esa precisamente es la bandera de Bogotá, amarillo y
Sí.
rojo.
Pero este es el Andrés en el centro de Bogotá. Hay una otra afuera de la ciudad que es más grande y es más loca, ¿sí?
Es correcto, el original se llama Andrés Chía, este es el del centro comercial. Igual ambos están muy bien, pero sí es verdad que el original y donde hay más fiesta y es más divertido es en el del norte. Pues en el de Chía, que es a las afueras de Bogotá.
Sí, mi próxima tiempo en Bogotá. Pero, ¿dónde está? Sí. Sí, he pasado un poco de tiempo en Colombia, principalmente en Medellín, pero también he estado en Bogotá algunas veces. Así que estoy muy emocionado de ver crecer la comunidad de Ethereum y no puedo esperar a volver a DevCon en 2021, ¿sí?
Así
En
es,
este...
muy emocionados de tenerlos acá.
Sí. En este momento estoy trabajando en algunos proyectos. Una es la Burner Wallet. Es una billetera simple de web. Si ha estado en eventos como ETH Denver o ETH Waterloo o algunos hackathons, es posible que lo haya probado. Actualmente tenían un evento pequeño en Medellín en diciembre con el Burner Wallet. Y estoy trabajando en un sitio llamado Burner Factory, donde puedes construir tu propio Burner Wallet. También estoy trabajando en un proyecto llamado DeFi777. Este sería un proyecto que utilizar tokens ERC777 para facilitar DeFi. Y finalmente estoy trabajando con Fuel, donde estamos creando una solución de escalado, y yo hablaré de esto más tarde. Ok, para el problema. Si ha enviado una transacción en los últimos meses, entonces conoce el problema de escala de Ethereum. La red ha estado muy congestionada, especialmente en el mes pasado con yield farming, con sushi y jam y todos. Aquí tenemos un screenshot de la billetera Argent para un intercambio de cuesta $200. Si quieres usar el blockchain para ayudar a las personas sin bancos, ahora no es posible. Es demasiado caro. Realmente esto no es un problema con Ethereum, es un problema con blockchains. Bitcoin no es mejor. Las únicas blockchains que tienen una mejor escala son blockchains que están menos descentralizadas. Aquí tenemos una idea creada por Vitalik llamada trilema de escalabilidad. Los puntos del triángulo son escalabilidad, seguridad y descentralización. Bitcoin y Ethereum están descentralizados y son seguros, pero no escalables. Ripple y EOS son más escalables, pero menos descentralizados. Ahora no puedes ejecutar un nodo de EOS en su computadora. Necesita un servidor muy potente y es una razón, no es muy descentralizado. Y este es uno de los problemas fundamentales que estamos tratando de resolver. Entonces, ¿cómo resolvamos este problema? Necesitamos mover las transacciones fuera del blockchain principal. No vas al banco cada vez que quieres usar dinero, solo vas al banco una vez a la semana o cuando necesitas mover mucho dinero. Hay muchas soluciones de escala diferentes y cada tiene atributos diferentes. Estos son algunos de ellos. No voy a leer porque no puedo pronunciar algunos, pero en esta presentación no voy a hablar de estos primeros tres. Todos los proyectos son rápidos y baratos. Todos los equipos compiten por quién puede tener el mayor número de transacciones por segundo. Y estos números cambian todo el tiempo. Pero estos otros atributos, son los que distinguen a las diferentes soluciones. Voy a analizar todas las diferentes tecnologías en orden que fueron creadas. Y el primero y el más conocido es canales de pago, payment channels y state channels. Estos son sistemas en los que usuarios depositan fondos en un contrato, luego se envían transacciones firmadas entre sí, pero no envían las transacciones a la cadena hasta que están terminadas. ¿Ustedes usan cheques en Colombia o otros países?
Así es, David. Sí, acá no son tan usados, pero de golpe, seguramente en otros países de Latinoamérica.
Escribes un papel con firmada para enviar dinero. Es buen para explain. How do you say explain?
¿Explicar?
Explicar, sí. Para explicar canales de pago. Supongamos que posee una tienda y sus clientes quieran pagar con cheque. pero su banco le cobra una tarifa por cada cheque que deposita. Si tiene un cliente que viene todos los días y realizar una compra, puede darle un nuevo cheque cada vez, pero no depositar cada cheque. Rompe el cheque viejo y se queda con el nuevo. Si el cliente deja venir, usted va al banco, deposita el último cheque y solo paga una tarifa. Así es como funcionan los canales de pago. Envía transacciones firmadas y solo publica en blockchain cuando haya terminado. Los canales de pago son muy buenos para un grupo fijo de personas que realizan transacciones, pero ¿qué pasa si desea permitir pagos entre cualquier persona? Los nodos intermedios pueden facilitar estas transacciones y esto se denomina red de canales. Y esto es, ¿qué es la Lightning Network de Bitcoin? Ahora hay una serie de problemas con Lightning y las redes de canales, pero no lo discutimos demasiado porque es una charla sobre Ethereum. Hasta ahora hemos hablado de canales para realizar pagos, pero los canales no tienen por qué solo para transacciones financieras. Pero también puede utilizar canales para otras aplicaciones del blockchain. Un buen ejemplo son los juegos. Imagina que tienes una partida de ajedrez en Ethereum. ¿Qué tal?
Difícil palabra, pero sí, lo dijiste bien.
No puede decir nada. Ajedrez en Ethereum. Puede enviar transacciones que representen cada movimiento al otro jugador y publicar la transacción final después de que finalice el juego o si un jugador se retira antes de tiempo. Este ejemplo plantea un problema con los canales. En este juego, ¿cómo saber si el otro jugador se ha marcado o solo está pensando? Hay dos formas de cerrar un canal. Todos los participantes pueden acordar cerrar un canal y salir de intermedio. Sin embargo, si un participante no está de acuerdo, los demás deben esperar del tiempo de espera antes de salir. Cualquier canal debe tener un tiempo de espera y si todos los participantes no están de acuerdo en cerrar un canal, su dinero o su juego se bloqueará hasta que se acabe el tiempo. Estos son ejemplos de proyectos que utilizan canales. Hay proyectos o hay Lightning en Bitcoin y hay otros proyectos en Ethereum, unos de pago y algunas de state channels. Lost my place. Sí. Uno es Spankchain. Es un interesante porque creo que es el caso de uso perfecto para las canales. Spankchain es una empresa de pornografía, pero esto tiene mucho sentido porque tiene dos usuarios en línea al mismo tiempo y enviado muchas transacciones pequeñas entre el modelo y el usuario.
David, tú dijiste, cuando estábamos hablando o preparando la presentación, Spankchain es de fotografía o de pornografía?
Pornografía.
Photos? It's about porn. All right.
Sí. Spankchain.
Okay, Spank. Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay.
Bueno, sí. En realidad no creo que este proyecto es en vivo, pero sigo pensando que es un buen ejemplo. Los canales tienen muchas ventajas. Las más importantes que son gratis. Al menos los canales simples son gratis. Son gratuitos.
Gratuitos.
Yeah,
Like tweet. They
I know,
about.
I wrote tweet in the notes and then I got confused. Son gratuitos. Las redes de canales como Lightning pueden tener tarifas, pero solo necesita pagar cuando abre o sería un canal. También son instantáneos. Uf. Una vez que recibe un pago de canal, no necesita esperar nada para saber que es seguro. Sin embargo, también hay muchas desventajas también. Una es que cada participante necesita depositar cantidades significativas de fondos en un canal y eso está bloqueando durante la duración del canal. Y esto es inútil. Los canales simples tienen un número de fijos participantes. La gente no puede unirse o salir del canal y necesitan tener su computadora en línea durante la duración del canal para detectar cualquier salida maliciosa. Las redes de canales como Lightning abordan algunos de estos problemas, pero introducen otros problemas. Básicamente, los canales son geniales en algunas circunstancias, pero no es la solución a todos nuestros problemas. Para abordar algunos de los problemas con canales, la gente comenzó a investigar sidechains. Un sidechain es una cadena completamente nueva, pero tiene un puente para mover fichas entre y la cadena principal. Esto es muy flexible porque la nueva cadena puede tener cualquier características. Puede tener contratos inteligentes, puede tener tiempos de bloques más rápidos, cualquier. Estos son los principales sidechains ahora. Esta es un sidechain muy popular de Ethereum. Se utiliza el stablecoin DAI como moneda base. RSK es similar a Ethereum, pero unido al blockchain de Bitcoin. Y Liquid es un otro sidechain para Bitcoin, pero no admite contratos inteligentes, es solamente por pagos. Pero una similitud entre todos estos es el puente. Todos dependen de un multisig para conectar su cadena a la cadena principal. Y esto no es muy descentralizado. Entonces, las ventajas de los sidechains son que no dependen de su cadena principal. Esto significa que pueden ser más escalables y agregar nuevas funciones, pero la desventaja es que necesita un puente confiable para moverse entre esa cadena y la cadena principal. A continuación, tenemos Plasma. Plasma fue una idea pública por primera vez por Vitalik en 2017, cuando Ethereum tiene dificultades para escalar por primera vez. Y Plasma es un diseño de sidechain que es más seguro al permitir que los usuarios salgan a la cadena principal. Lo hace publicando headers del bloque a la cadena principal y permite salidas con varias pruebas. Plasma es una mejoría al permitirnos tener un sidechain escalable, pero con seguridad desde la cadena principal. Pero todavía hay algunos problemas. Existían muchas versiones de Plasma con diferentes desventajas, pero aquí hay una versión simple. Hay un problema de mass exit, como hay un problema y todos los participantes pueden publicar su salida, no pueden publicar su salida en la cadena principal. Y si hay una respuesta, todo el estado, does that make sense there? Estado. Sí, pues. Bueno, todo el estado debe publicarse en la cadena. Y en este caso no hay una ventaja porque todo el estado está en la cara principal también. y no puede
Ok.
utilizar contratos inteligentes. A continuación, llegamos a los rollups. Rollups es una nueva técnica donde todos los datos se publican a la cadena principal, pero no se validan. Hay dos variantes de rollups. La primera es optimistic rollup. Los paquetes acumulativos estos son similares de plasma, tienen pruebas de salida similares, pero debido a que todos los datos están en la cadena, es mucho más permissionless. Esto significa que el usuario no necesita almacenar sus propios datos. Cualquiera puede producir un nuevo bloque, pero si no es válido, otra persona puede publicar una prueba de fraude. Y esto hará retroceder.
Retroceder, ajá.
Entonces, sí, gracias. La cadena y el validador verá su garantía es slashed o reducida.
Hay una pregunta que justo tiene que ver con Optimistic Rollups. Juanes pregunta de cuándo se lanzará Optimistic Rollups a Mainnet.
En unos meses.
Ok, ahí está la respuesta para Juanes.
Wait, you say when will they come to mainnet?
Yeah, when will they launch Optimistic
Sí,
Rollups to Mainnet?
hay unas
You want, you can go in
proyectos,
English.
no, es unos meses, es todo. No sé, no hay un dato para Fuel, pero creo que muchos están antes del fin del año.
Perfecto.
Ok, para ventajas por Optimistic Rollups, una gran ventaja es que los rollups optimísticas pueden ejecutar cualquier tipo de cadena. Pueden tener contratos inteligentes, pueden usar pruebas de zero knowledge para la privacidad, pueden hacer prácticamente cualquier cosa. También es fácil ejecutar un nodo. En realidad es mucho más fácil que ejecutar un nodo de Ethereum. Entonces, cualquiera puede validar la cadena, la rollup cadena. La mejor desventaja es que una salida normal a la cadena principal es lenta, tarda aproximadamente 2 semanas. Pero para muchos tokens puede hacer un intercambio atómico. Eso solo toma unos minutos. Un intercambio atómico es si tengo DAI en un rollup y alguien más tiene DAI en la red principal, podemos intercambiar los tokens y es muy rápido. Además, dado que todos los datos se publican en la cadena, la capacidad del paquete acumulativo está limitada por la cadena principal. Y esta es una de las razones por qué ETH 2.0 es emocionante. Tendrá 64 shards en ETH 2.0, por lo que los rollups tendrán 64 veces más capacidad. Estos son algunos de los principales proyectos que construyen Optimistic Rollups. Puedes ver que hay muchos y este es un espacio realmente emocionante. Y uno de estos proyectos es Fuel y esto es el proyecto que me estoy trabajando en este momento. Fuel es un rollup y una forma que Fuel es diferente a los otros proyectos Optimistic Rollup es que Fuel usa un UTXO model como Bitcoin. Esto hace que validar la cadena sea muy eficaz.
Eficaz, esa es la palabra.
Eficaz, gracias. Es muy eficaz como usan UTXOs. Para la primera versión, es en unos meses, solo admitirá la transferencia y intercambio de tokens, y para la segunda versión admitirá contratos inteligentes. Pero por otros proyectos como Optimism y creo que Arbitrium es cerca también, estos tienen contratos inteligentes en unos meses también. Recientemente creamos una demostración llamada Fuel Plays Pokémon. En este sitio tenemos un Game Boy jugando Pokémon, y cada vez que presionas un botón envía una transacción y puede ver el juego en el screen. Échale un vistazo y prueba Optimistic Rollups. Finalmente, una de las áreas más nuevas de la tecnología de escalado es ZK Rollups. Como Optimistic Rollups, estos publican todos los datos en la cadena, pero los validan fuera de la cadena. Pero en lugar de esperar a que los participantes publiquen pruebas de fraude, el productor de bloques publica una prueba de Zero Knowledge. No voy a explicar pruebas de Zero Knowledge porque para mí es mágico, pero es una área realmente interesante de investigación en criptografía. Y esto tiene algunas ventajas y desventajas interesantes. Bien. Sí, estos son los ejemplos de ZK Rollups. Loopring y ZK Sync ya están disponibles en mainnet hoy. De hecho, ahora puede usar ZK Sync para Gitcoin ahora. Es interesante.
Justo nuestro amigo JJ desde Ciudad de México nos estaba comentando en el chat algunos proyectos que ya lo tienen. Entonces, incluso hace una gran sugerencia de hablar del EIP 1559 para una siguiente conversación. But we can go further in that in the Q&A. And the EIP 1559, we could discuss that later.
Yeah, I'd love to discuss that. Yeah, we'll get to that after, I guess.
There you go.
Para los ventajas y desventajas, la mejor ventaja de ZK Rollups es que puede volver a la cadena principal al instante, a diferencia que las Optimistic Rollups. Pero por las desventajas, una es que no admiten contratos inteligentes, solo transferencias y intercambios. Requiere criptografía novedosa y un trusted setup. Y también no voy a pretender ser un criptógrafo, pero la gente inteligente me dice que eso es una desventaja. Y finalmente, las pruebas recuerdan muchas potencia informática. Entonces, si un validador se desconecta y bloquea su dinero, es posible que deba alquilar servidores poderes de Amazon para salir y tener su moneda. A pensar de estas desventajas, esto es algo realmente emocionante. Estas son matemáticas y criptografía nueva, y estoy diseño que se desoralizan más. Don't even know what that meant.
What do you want to say?
I don't remember. But I was saying this is like cutting edge technology.
That's hard to translate. Who wants to translate that? Cutting edge.
For cutting edge, I wrote vanguardia, but I don't think that's direct.
De vanguardia.
Vanguardia.
Vanguardia es la traducción correcta. There's no translation to the cutting edge idiomism, but yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's why I kind of like crossed it out. It's like, I don't think that's what Google says. I don't think it's correct.
O investigación de frontera, tal vez también se puede utilizar un poco, que está rompiendo. Pero sí. Vanguardia es la palabra.
Vanguardia, ok, gracias.
Todos aprendemos acá.
Son tecnologías muy interesantes. Y una de las mayores preocupaciones que escucho acerca de estas soluciones de escalado es si habría interoperabilidad. Y la respuesta corta es sí. Habrá muchas soluciones de escalado diferentes, pero sería fácil mover tokens entre la mayoría de ellas. Podemos utilizar un HTLC para movernos directamente entre optimistic rollups y plasma y sidechains. ZK Rollups y state channels no admiten estos intercambios actualmente, aunque es posible que futuros proyectos de ZK Rollups lo incluyen. Si está interesado de interoperabilidad, el equipo de Connext ya está trabajando en la construcción de un sistema para conectar estos sistemas de escalabilidad. Y es todo. En conclusión, todavía es muy temprano. Toda la comunidad de blockchain ha estado investigando soluciones de escala durante años, pero recién estamos comenzados a encontrar soluciones reales. Entre la creciente demanda de criptomonedas y la creciente impresión de dinero, esta tecnología es más importante que nunca. Sí, y es todo. Gracias a todos por su tiempo. Gracias a Nick Dodson y John Adler, son parte de mi equipo de Fuel, y estos son las personas que saben todo de estas soluciones de escalabilidad. Y es tiempo por preguntas y discusiones.
No, gracias a ti por tu tiempo, por estar hasta tan tarde con nosotros acá y preparar la presentación en español. En esta parte vamos a pasar a inglés. Igual si alguien quiere hacer su pregunta en español, siéntase libre de escribirla en el chat en español y hacemos la traducción. But from this point on, we are going to switch to English. So feel free, guys, I see different faces of people that I know that speak really good English and they are working in the industry. So, I mean, I see a raised hand. There you go, JJ, go ahead, please.
All right, David, thank you so much for the presentation. That was like excellent content about scalability on L2. I see you just like covered, I guess, like most of the major like concepts, you know, like state channels and plasma. Then later evolved. Plasma, you know, was the big word in 2017 when it first came out from Vitalik and Joseph Kuhn. And a lot of people don't know, but Joseph Kuhn was also the inventor of the Lightning Network in Bitcoin. So it's kind of like funny that now it's the Lightning Network and then the inventor like just switched to Ethereum to come up with Plasma, you know? But anyway, so my question is, what do you think about EIP 1559, and when do you think the upcoming Berlin hard fork will happen in terms of upgrading to this next protocol change upgrade?
Yeah, EIP 1559 is, I guess I'll give a summary for anyone who doesn't know about it. This might be one of the most exciting changes to Ethereum. Now, I'll say this is a layer 1 change, so I don't know if it's really going to affect these layer 2 scalability solutions, but what EIP 1559 does is it changes the way that that gas fees are calculated, and it should hopefully reduce the system we have now of right now. It's kind of an auction to get your transaction included, and I think that really pushes the price up, because if you want to send a transaction and you go into MetaMask and it says, oh, it's going to cost 100 GUI to send your transaction, you go, well, I'm going to do 110 GUI because I want mine to go in very quickly. And then that's going to push the limit up and up and up. So with EIP 1559, the protocol itself will basically provide the current gas fee. And so that should simplify a lot of things. Yeah, again, I'm not a total expert on it, but the other interesting thing about it is that most of the transaction fee, again, there's kind of two different parts of the transaction fee, but the main transaction fee is going to get burned instead of being paid to miners. Now, there are some game theoretical reasons why it has to get burned, but the cool thing for Ethereum and for the price of Ethereum is now the price of Ethereum will kind of be tied to the usage of the network. If many people are using the network, then lots of ETH is going to get burned. It's going to become more scarce and the price will go up. And what I think some people are hoping is that, you know, Bitcoin has established this narrative of a supply cap, that there's only, you know, 21 million Bitcoins that will exist, whereas Ethereum kind of has this plan of constant inflation. But with this EIP, it's possible that Ethereum will have, you know, this will compensate for that inflation, and you'll have either a flat amount of ETH or even potentially like negative inflation. So that's exciting. In terms of the Berlin hard fork, or when EIP 1559 will actually be included, I don't know.
2 weeks.
So that was a lot. What did you say, sorry?
Yeah, 2 weeks. You know, that's like the meme. You know, it's always like 2 weeks away, and like you know, you never know. It's more about milestones more than dates, I guess. You know, when it comes to, you know, those hard fork dates. You know.
Yeah, I had a professor in university who said these things, they're always 80% done, always.
And one thing I would like to add in terms of what the EIP 1559 like means, it's the way I just described it. It's that it's the first price auction mechanism. It's like trying to catch a cab ride, but that's like the old system, you know, where you don't know who everybody else is paying, so you don't know if that's like the right rate. And compared to this like Uber mechanism, you know, like when you get based on like how congested, you know, the network is in terms of Uber drivers and how many people are using the Uber, you know, like stuff, you get like surges, you know, and you get like lower fees, you know, whenever it's like, you know, if you arrive at the network at like 3 in the morning, you know, like nobody will be using it. So that's like getting that signaling, you know, that's what EIP 1559 does. It's like the Uber signaling for fees, you know, that's the way I see it. It's like the leap forward between doing this primitive first price auction mechanism that we have right now, instead of like more like a market driven auction mechanism, you know?
Yeah, that's a great metaphor for explaining it. It's like Uber instead of, I guess I'm imagining like a group of people trying to get a taxi, and everybody is like holding like money in their hand to try to get the taxi to come to them first.
I came up with that analogy whenever I was having a talk with Camila Russo, and we were just like talking about the same issues like a month ago at this panel. And I just came up with the analogy of Ethereum like New York right now, because DeFi is where everything is right now. It's like the place to be, like it's Manhattan. That's where you have everything and everybody wants to be there. So it's like the club that everybody wants to attend, and there's like bouncers, you know, in the entrance, and saying like who can get in and who can get not, you know. So that's like that's Ethereum, you know. That's like the trendy Manhattan, you know, like famous spot to be right now.
Yeah,
it's the hot spot.
Exactly. Everyone wants to hang out there.
And you can see that in terms of like how much has been collected in terms of fees, you know, on the Ethereum blockchain. And it's just like incredible, you know, like how much usage it's actually, how much the free market is willing to pay to use Ethereum, which I think is a very good signal as well.
Yeah, I think it was maybe Justin Drake, one of the core researchers, had a tweet today that said, you know, if we had EIP 1559 right now, it would have been like, I think like
1.5 million.
You saw that, 1.5 million.
I retweeted that as soon as I saw it, because it was like a crazy metric. And you know, like Filecoin, it's very interesting, I guess, to add that Filecoin is doing like a test experiment, and I think they're doing like EIP 1559 on their mainnet. And I heard Juan Benet talking yesterday at CoinDesk, saying that they've been having like really, really good results, you know, like test proving, doing the burn fee on Filecoin. So that's a very, very good, like, you know, signaling as well that everything will, I think, will be, you know, good to go.
That's awesome. I also think
We
it's
have
funny
some,
that, oh, sorry.
yeah. Oh, I have some questions from the chat too. So from the same Dostoevsky, thank you for your question. He says that, how do you see the future? Every project or protocol using optimistic rollup, or do you think that each protocol is going to be creating their own optimistic rollup?
That's a great question. I think in the future, it's going to be, I think we're not going to see one scaling solution. This is, I think, one area that I think I kind of diverge from some of what I see people saying on Twitter. Like, if everybody that has an application on Ethereum just takes it and they move it into one optimistic rollup, we haven't really solved anything. We haven't made anything more efficient. So I think there will be many scaling solutions. There will be many optimistic rollups. There will be ZK rollups. There will be sidechains. There will be plasma. There will be everything that I talked about today. I think they will all exist because they all have different advantages and disadvantages. But as I talked about at the end, the important thing is that you can kind of move between them easily. So I think there will be, like, I think one thing ZK rollups can be really good at is exchanges, so that we can, some of these layer 2s will be really good exchanges. They'll be like kind of a decentralized Coinbase. So you can go there if you want to trade. You can go to, I think optimistic rollups will be good for kind of DeFi type things, kind of financial dApps. And I think sidechains, sidechains don't have as much security, but they're kind of a bit easier. I think those are really good for like games or applications that don't need quite the same level of security. But yeah, I think people will be able to kind of move in between them. But at the end of the day, like really important contracts, they're still going to need to be deployed at layer 1. If you have a financial application, you need to know that you have like the settlement assurances that your contract is running on the main Ethereum chain, and that if there's a problem on your layer 2, you can always go back to that main chain, or you can always move to a different layer 2. So like, I'm sure there will be like Uniswap deployed on many different projects, but there will still be like Uniswap and MakerDAO and Aave and the real, like the DeFi protocols, they're still going to exist on the mainnet.
Great. And from the same person, we have this question: can RSK be considered an Ethereum competitor? Or what are RSK limitations? How come they haven't reached an important adoption?
How come they haven't reached?
RSK. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think they're considered an Ethereum competitor. It's an interesting project because it is very, the architecture, it's very similar. They're using the Ethereum virtual machine and Solidity and lots of the architecture. It's very similar to what we have on Ethereum, but they're doing it on Bitcoin. I'm trying to remember if it's merge mined. I think it is like proof of work merge mined with Bitcoin, which is interesting. And so it's mostly decentralized, but again, they still have a, kind of somewhat trusted bridge if you want to move Bitcoin in and out of it. So I think it's a cool project. But if I had to kind of pick what I thought would be like a, more likely solution, would probably be something like TBTC, like a trustless way to put Bitcoin on Ethereum, as opposed to a way to put smart contracts on Bitcoin. Partially just because everything is already on Ethereum. You can use, if you have Bitcoin on Ethereum, you can use it in DeFi, you can use it in Uniswap, you can do whatever you want with it. Any chain that's kind of starting completely separate from Ethereum is just going to have a tough time getting users, getting that network effect.
Yeah, totally agree. I was going to mention that the network effect on Ethereum is so hard, and the community, you cannot fork community. So
exactly.
I have one question from your presentation. When you were talking about XDAI as one of the disadvantages of this type of side change, you were mentioning that the censorship could be an issue. But what about security? I've heard that some people say that XDAI cannot be as secure as mainnet Ethereum. Do you agree with that, or just like this more control that some of the validators have?
Yeah, I guess it depends security in which sense. So I guess the drawbacks, Well, first I'll say, like, I love XDAI. I've been using it a long time, and I think right now, if you're a developer and you want to be experimenting with smart contracts and building cool dApps, like, there's probably no better place than XDAI at this moment. But you know, you should still need to understand the drawbacks. The consensus mechanism for XDAI is right now it started as like proof of authority, which basically was a kind of a permissioned chain. I think they either have already switched or they'll be switching soon to delegated proof of stake. And so, of course, delegated proof of stake, you know, it's more decentralized than proof of authority, but it has some problems as well. If anybody knows what happened with Steam a few months ago, that's a really like interesting example of the problem with delegated proof of stake, that basically you can kind of buy your way to take over a chain. In that case, like Justin Sun from Tron like bought the Steam chain, and so that was interesting. So there are some issues with delegated proof of stake, and then of course the bridge between the XDAI chain and mainnet is this kind of multi-sig. I'm not sure if the governance system has the ability to like change who is in that multi-sig or not, but still at the end of the day, it's like, you know, there's 15 people that control whether you can move your money in and out of the chain. So yeah, I use XDAI all the time. It's a great place to do things, but I wouldn't put like a lot of money into it. And I think this is why we haven't seen, like, we've seen a lot of games and DAOs and things using XDAI, but we haven't really seen like financial applications moving to XDAI yet.
Yeah. Actually, we're developing something that is called Coinosis, and we switched that. I mean, where our events are not more than, I don't know, $40. So for that amount, it's okay. But yeah, as you mentioned, it's like really cool thing to play with, and it's quite easy to move from one.
Yeah, that's it. Perfect for Coinosis. We tried it before, and yeah, if you just want to send $1, don't pay any fee, have it go instantly. Like, that's why I use XDAI. So perfect for that.
Awesome. I don't know if anyone has any more questions. I mean, it's almost going to be Thursday for David, so I don't want him to be too late for him. But please open your mics. And
I had one private question here. This is from Dostrovsky. ¿Cómo funcionará en el futuro todos los proyectos? I think this was pretty much what we just answered.
Yep, we already answered that.
Okay. I'm just looking to see if there are any other.
Hey, David. David
Hey,
here.
David.
How are you, man?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. When are you planning to come again to Colombia?
When am I planning? Well, I have to wait till borders start to open up again.
Okay. No, I just want to ask you something. Like, you know, like I'm not too technical, so maybe if you can like share some maybe Twitter accounts, or maybe just like something to start like getting into the technical part. Because as you know, I'm working right now at C Labs, and it's been a challenge to try to explain, or try to get information about, like, try to put perspective with other people that are really technical. And it's been a challenge for me right now. I'm a psychologist. I'm trying to work on how to talk about blockchain in more like light way. But the technical part is a little bit difficult for me. So what are your thoughts on that? If you can give some advice or something like that.
For how to explain like technical concepts to.
No, maybe some Twitter accounts, so people that is like trying to explain, or maybe YouTube channels, so that in order to get more content more easily to eat for people that is not technical.
I mean, my go-to is always, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen him, Andreas Antonopoulos. You seen his? Yeah. He's great at kind of he can explain anything and explain why it's important. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Vitalik is very good at explaining kind of these technical concepts. In terms of Twitter accounts, Nothing's coming to mind. I don't know. Does anyone else have ideas?
ETH Hub, I have heard that a lot of people point to the ETH Hub account.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good place to start. Also, we have books. I mean, I actually have this one here. This hub is really cool. I had hands-on Sin O'Reilly. Also, we have content made from Santiago Paladino, web developer, Ethereum for web developers too. Mm-hmm. Actually, I can send you David. Mm-hmm. It's good to see you here on the call. Because I think the people that do this effort to put something on a single piece as a book, they have to think on a perennial way. So things that are not going to change that fast. So I will point people to books. Mm-hmm. Mastering Bitcoin, also from Antonopoulos and Gavin Wood, is a good resource. So we have our friend Carlos. What do you think about mastering Ethereum, Carlos, now that you have the paperback form? You're muted, so we cannot hear you.
Yeah, it goes into really rich depth on how the Solidity language works. The only problem is that these things get deprecated like in a week or so. Like that's the only issue I have with programming books on blockchain, because every quarter we have like a completely new change of paradigm. I don't know.
Pragma? Or
Paradigm.
I guess I thought pragma because I was thinking Solidity, there's like a new version of Solidity all the time.
Mm-hmm.
New breaking versions too.
Yeah. I haven't gone into, I was waiting for some, I remember like 2 or 3 months ago, I was waiting for some Open Zeppelin library to be upgraded, and bam, Solidity 7 is now out. I have or 6, but yeah, it's crazy the pace everything is changing, but that only means that the technology is getting better. We're making new mistakes, which is always good, and I have a lot of faith in the ecosystem. And like almost any other technology on blockchain, any other Ethereum based blockchain is gonna benefit directly or indirectly from these changes. So it's a positive outcome for all the ecosystem. I guess the industry, we can call it an industry now. So yeah,
I think it's big enough.
Yeah,
it's bigger than a community. Yeah, but it does. I remember at East Denver, like 2019, when Andreas Antonopoulos was the speaker, and he was like, "Yeah, I have this book," and it's like it's already outdated. It's already changing too fast.
The good thing about this book is that it's on Git, so you can actually track, and they keep adding up revisions to it, which I guess I mean you're kind of signing a contract, a moral contract of buying the book and not use the Git as well as the book. Yeah. But it's great that you can keep up with the changes and see how things are being shaped up from what you got, and only get that delta of things instead of having to, well, just search it in the book again and figure it out for yourself. So that's completely a new way of distributing this documentation, which is great.
Yeah, definitely.
So, any more questions?
I had a question there. David, props for the talk. It's great Spanish. And I just wanted to I joined fairly late. I think you touched on the optimism or OVM. Just wanted to hear your overall thoughts, and just as I know, on the mastering Ethereum, I can recommend it as well. At least if you want to learn the protocol at the layer 1, those chapters are still relevant. Yeah, the only things are the Solidity side but if you want to figure out how the EVM works, it's still the same, at least until it hits ETH2 for the most part, I would say. But yeah, yeah.
I would say, I think even the EVM will still be somewhat the same.
Right. Yeah. Maybe the EWASM will change some stuff, but yeah, for sure. It's going to be relevant for years until we see like the big jump into ETH2. But just talking about that, like the shards, I think you're probably spot on the landscape of the layer 2, how it's going to develop. Like I see it like shards, and you spoke like DeFi is going to be in the layer 2. Where, not sure if you're a betting man, but where would you bet that's going to land? Like Optimism, OVM, or something different that's enabling? So because the only problem that I see is asking Compound and all these big protocols maker that have like thousands of lines of Solidity to migrate them to a different thing that's not Solidity or EVM compatible. That's sort of like a huge, and that's why I'm excited about OVM, but I don't know, I want to hear your thoughts on that, and I hope it's not a leaning question.
No, that's a great question. I think that's a lot of what's still being discussed. So I don't think I don't think DeFi is going to move to layer 2. Like I think things like MakerDAO and Compound and Aave and all these protocols we're used to, they're still going to be on layer 1, but they'll be usable. I guess one way you can kind of think of it, because this is one thing that we're working at with Fuel, because the first version of Fuel is not going to have an OVM, it's not going to have smart contracts, but we still think we can do a lot of what's in DeFi just even without smart contracts. So an example is like, say you want to deposit money into Compound. On layer 1, you take your DAI and you send it to the Compound smart contract and they give you back CDAI. But the way that you could do that on a layer 2 would be that you have DAI on a layer 2 and someone else has CDAI, and you just do a atomic swap with that person to have CDAI instead of DAI. And you've basically just, in effect, you've deposited into Compound. And that person knows, the person you've swapped with knows that they can take that DAI back to layer 1 and they can deposit it. So I think roughly the way that DeFi is going to look with layer 2 is you'll have maybe users, especially users that are using kind of smaller amounts of money, they'll be using layer 2 to do these things. And liquidity providers will be taking large amounts of money back to layer 1 to actually plug things into the protocols. In terms of, I said like Optimism and, Fuel eventually, but all these optimistic rollup teams will have smart contracts at some point. I think that the smart contracts that are going to be on layer 2, they're going to be more kind of like user interface smart contracts, if that makes any sense. I think we'll see like a bit of a separation between like applications and protocols, whereas right now those are kind of one and the same. Like MakerDAO, it's a protocol, but for lending and creating DAI, but it's also like an application. You can go to their DApp and you can use it. As layer 1 becomes more expensive and layer 2 becomes more accessible, I think you're going to see like applications that user-facing applications will probably live on layer 2, and these financial protocols will live on layer 1 where they really need that trustlessness.
Makes sense. Yeah, totally. And for sure. And that's where probably the ERC20 with all its downsides comes in handy, because we have all these tokens that represent something, like you said, like CDAI, YDAI, or your ERC77 that I know you build that's really awesome, that those are going to be living on layer 2. Probably won't make sense to have a unwrapped DAI in layer 2, I would think. Like you would want your stuff in layer 2 doing something, your money working for you somehow. I don't know, but yeah, I agree as well. Thanks for the answer. Sure.
No, yeah, thank you. And I'll add that one thing that I'm working on right now, which is it's kind of part of Fuel, but it's also kind of part of DeFi 777, is to be creating more tokens to tokenize things that don't really exist as tokens now. So an example, not an example that I've made, but an example of this type of thing would be, if anyone knows Chai. Chai is the tokenized version of MakerDAO's DAI savings rate. Blanked on that.
Yeah.
That they took, when you were earning DAI savings rate, that wasn't something that was tokenized, but they just built a token on top of it. And once you build a token on top of it, then you can really easily move it into a layer 2. So we're looking into, you know, can we tokenize yield farming so that you have a yield farming token on layer 2? Can we tokenize, you know, maker vaults so that you can like do CDPs almost on layer 2? Kind of just exploring what things don't exist as tokens today that we can turn into tokens. So yeah, great question.
Thanks.
Algunos más?
Algunas más. Yeah, we're reaching 1 hour of the talk. If you have more questions, maybe you can share with us on the chat your Twitter account so people can follow you and continue the conversation, or
Sure,
the social media that you the most.
Yeah, I'll my Twitter is DMIHAL. I just posted that. That's my Twitter and also my Telegram. So feel free to reach out to me on either of those platforms.
We hope to see you at the DevCon here in Bogotá in
Can't wait.
2021.
I hope to be back before DevCon, but we'll see how the world goes.
So you have a nice Spanish already.
Maybe I'll do some más charlas y get better.
Yeah, we're talking about David's favorite city, Medellin or Bogotá, and we're discussing weather is one thing, but you have to discover better Bogotá. We can show you that and have fun here too.
I'm sure. Both great spots.
I'm in Bogotá right now, Juan. So,
Really?
Yeah. So if I can pass and you can like borrow me that book.
For sure. Actually, yeah, this is a really good one. Hands-on. Later we shared this on the Ethereum Bogotá. I have been studying using this one.
Awesome.
So
hi everyone.
Oh, one more question.
Hello, Juan David. Good
Hi,
night,
hello.
David.
Hola.
Okay, I had a question for David. Maybe David, you can tell us how to deal with a technology that is constantly updating, like Solidity.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can give us a good advice for programmers.
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a difficult part of the space, is things always changing. I mean, sometimes you just need to, in terms of like Solidity, sometimes you just need to pick a version and stick with it. You know, if you start building a project with Solidity 5, you know, you need to kind of weigh the benefits. How much time would it take to upgrade to a newer version? How much to stick with the one that you have? Yeah, I guess, yes, some said hackathons, yeah, or just kind of trying new, you know, kind of side projects and trying to experiment with different things. Yeah, it's really hard to keep up with everything. Yeah, I don't know if I have a better answer than just experiment.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but definitely like checking on Gitcoin, there's a lot of activity over there. For example, we have Martin from dgraph. So one time he told me, hey, you should try to hack something that we're doing on dgraph and you can learn our technology. So I will also add that to the equation, Juan Diego, that hackathons and having, and I guess Gitcoin is starting to be the place where the organizers are putting the rewards for people to get involved. So Gitcoin is definitely, and they have a section just for hackathons. So it definitely is a way also to keep up with the continuous innovation and new technologies that we have.
Yeah, and also there's another ETH Global hackathon starting in a few weeks. ETH Online, I think it's what it's called, and I think signups go for like 1 more week. So yeah, if you have some ideas, something to hack on, you can sign up for that. And I know that they have a bunch of sponsored prizes for that as well.
Yep, definitely. And also this is something that we are working on with the community of Bogotá and some people around Colombia, that we are creating a course in Spanish with the roadmap to DevCon. So be aware of the social media accounts of our friends of Ethereum Caribe, Ethereum Bogotá, because we're leading this. This is part of the mission we're pursuing, like creating high quality content. Thank you, David, for your time, for preparing the presentation. And also to have this, like, I know English could be an extra layer of complexity and obstacle for some people, but soon we're going to be announcing a course in Spanish as an introduction to this world that we are always passionate to learn more. So yeah, I don't want to stand more than the hour that we planned. Actually, we're 1 hour and almost 20 minutes. Thank you for your time, David. And we're going to post this on our YouTube channel. And thank you, all of you, for being part of this talk.
Gracias a todos. Gracias a Juan David. See you all at DevCon.
For sure. We are more than happy to have you here.
Chao.
Gracias a todos. Y bueno, hablamos. David, later you can just send me the record of the session.
Yeah.
Just put it to stop,
Yes,
maybe.